Hi, and welcome to Season 3, Episode 2 of D2Football.com's NSIC Weekly Podcast, where we focus on the football happenings of the Northern Sun Intercollegiate Conference. I'm Tom Frederick, play-by-play voice of the University of Sioux Falls. He's Matt Witwicky, better known to football fans across the country as Witt, not half-wit, not dumb-wit, just Witt. Matt is the guy who covers the NSIC beat for D2Football.com. And big guy, I say that term with all sorts of affection. You put some miles on, had a lot of windshield time last week since we last spoke. Let's get the party started with you telling us where your journey took you.
You're darn right. Let's go ahead and take a look-see. And I'll be honest, I'm getting kind of old for all this travel, Frederick. Now, I know that you're already old, so I mean, who am I talking to? But no, made the trip down to Maryville, Missouri. I had a chance to watch Northwest Missouri State host Minnesota State Mankato. Top 25 game. Was really looking forward to going down and seeing that. You can see the Mavs Mafia there in the upper right section of our screen. Laker, Mr. Behrens and Calavag all up there. Three troublemakers, a lot of chocolate milk being drank there in that group. But three outstanding guys, and I've mentioned this before, in their company and to others. They are truly the fans that all of us want to be for our team. They are those kind of fans, and I mean that very honestly. Below that, we've got, as we look to kind of left to right there, we've got our guy Rod there, who is takes photos for Northwest and for D2 when we go and travel nationally and stuff like that. Then myself, and then we've got my guy Chuck as well. Chuck made the trip. Just a mere 95-degree day on the turf. I tell you, when I went up to the press box at halftime and got a few waters when I went on with the Mavs radio crew, I was ready to stay up there for the second half. It was that kind of heat. I didn't realize how gassed I was by that time. Just being down on that turf, it adds, another 20 degrees on that. And it was rough. But so that was my, we'll get to the games and the outcomes and all that stuff here in a moment.
You should try exercising sometime. It might help your physical conditioning.
Well, you know what? When I walk the sideline and all that stuff, and I have to walk, blocks to the tailgate and a few more blocks back to the field and stuff, I think I'm kind of getting my steps in. I'm not saying, I'm just saying. Now, for those who had kind of been paying attention to our socials and things like that for D2 up until this point, people are aware of the fact that Northwest Missouri State and Minnesota State Mankato are both going to be wearing our the Brandon Meissner sticker for our founder, who had the stroke back in May. And Brandon is, we had a chance to go visit him. And by the way, I mean, it was when Chuck and I both saw this, it's kind of takes your breath away a little bit, because it's in our world, this means a whole lot. And Brandon is a Northwest grad, and he's done a whole heck of a lot to promote D2 football and also, frankly, that football program. And they've been very successful during that window. So it's been a great ride for him. Had a chance to go visit Brandon. My second time I've seen him since his stroke. And, we're still having some challenges. Left side of his body, arm and leg. We don't have movement yet. But you know what? I got to be real frank. Bob Eblin and I, who's our former national writer for a long time, was really good friends with Brandon. We had a chance to visit with him for about 2 hours. And, got a chance we joked around about a whole lot of things. And, Brandon still has his wit and humor very quick. We laughed about a lot of D2 things that we've always laughed about and stuff like that. And he knows that the chair is always warm for him if we can find a way to get him back, to our programming and so forth. But it was pretty neat to see that, and he did not know, Tom, that this was happening.
Mm.
So when I spoke to him on Friday, he got a little bit emotional about it, which is understandable. And then Bob Eblin's son is also going to wear one of these stickers for his high school team in the Kansas City area, St. Pius. And that probably hit Brandon even harder, if I'm going to be honest, just because Bob Eblin's son, Noah, is like his little best buddy. So it was pretty cool stuff, I have to admit. Then fast forward, went to Noah Eblin's game on Friday night. So I couldn't get enough football in, of course. Then on Saturday, we made the trip down to Oklahoma. I mean, southern Kansas, to go to Pitt State. And if we go ahead and kind of start in the top right there, the gorilla couldn't wait to get a picture with us, apparently, Chuck and I. And then as we go ahead and we kind of move on down, you can see stopped at Chicken Annie's, a famous chicken joint there in Pittsburgh, Kansas. Very good food. I ended up on the MIAA show giving that a rating of 8.1 out of 10, which for me means something. Then as we kind of move left to right to left, I should say, we've got the Ferris State radio crew, Sandy Golston right there, Rob Bentley, some of the best in Division II. They welcomed us up into the booth despite the fact their team only had one first down at halftime. So, yeah, we had a chance to do a whole bunch of stuff, and long drive back, as you can imagine. I got back middle of the day Sunday. We prepared for our Sunday show, and here we are moving into the week, my friend.
Yeah, you put a lot of miles on, but you love the game of football.
That's exactly right. Now, you, on the other hand, you had some travels too, but you had some delays, which sounds like a whole lot of fun. You were up in St. Paul. You guys were visiting FCS, St. Thomas, the Tommies. Tell us a little bit before we get into the games about your kind of game day experience.
Well, the campus is a beautiful place. It's right in downtown St. Paul. We went through a walkthrough Wednesday night. Coach Golgowski and Coach Caruso used to be coach mates, if you will, at USD back in the early aughts, 2004, I believe. Got pictures taken with them and their children. Each have sons on their respective teams. Then Thursday, it was a decent day. If we could only have played the game at 1 o'clock, we would have been home well before my bedtime. But no, it was scheduled for 6. And on the way to the facility, O'Shaughnessy Stadium, Coach Golgowski got word that weather's moving in. We're contemplating pushing it back, maybe even moving it to the next day. Well, that wouldn't have worked for the Cougars because the buses they were using were contracted to another client, had to be in Sioux Falls Friday morning at 8 o'clock. So I don't know what they would have done. And he was thinking maybe they could have played as late as 11 o'clock kickoff. Didn't have to go that far. We got started at 8 o'clock, 2 hours late. That's our perch. Tim Hyatt and myself were right there, not quite smack dab on the 50. Good viewpoint. Coach Caruso, who's been at St. Thomas this is his 17th season, says, yeah, we've got a wonderful campus, and you guys are in our palatial press box. It's the armpit of the program. And I guess that sums it up. At least it was concrete on the rear side. So if a heavy wind or something like that came through, they were contemplating maybe tornadoes or 2-inch hail, whatever. Never came to fruition, just heavy rain that came down sideways. We would have been safe. But the actual press box itself is maybe a step above Blakesley in Mankato, and that ain't saying much.
Gotcha. Great view, though. I'll tell you that right from here.
There is a track there. I wish the track wasn't there. You'd be a little bit closer to the field, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to see in that shot. Now I can see what you're talking about. Okay. Well, you know what? As we kind of talk to our everybody about kind of what we did on Thursday and some of our game day experience throughout the week, the the league office went ahead and did their weekly release because there was some football games played.
And Nick
I'll let you
Cornder-
kind of tell us a little bit about that.
Nick Cornder from the NSIC's home office right there in Burnsville, Minnesota, sends out every Monday Players of the Week, except for this week. It happened on Tuesday because Monday was Labor Day. Offensively, Mankato triggerman Hayden Eckern, the senior signal caller from your stomping grounds, old stomping grounds of the Chicagoland area. He factored in 5 scores in that Mavs win down at Northwest Missouri. The defensive player of the week is a member of U Mary's secondary. He's a junior from Atlanta, Justice Breston, and all he did was return 2 interceptions to the house for scores as the Marauders got a home win over Jamestown. And the special teamer is Bemidji's kicker, Joey Pronzinski. He's a junior from Brookfield, Wisconsin, by way of Winona State. He was 2 of 3 on field goals, added a PAT. He scored more than a third of Bemidji's points in a hard-fought overtime win over Michigan Tech.
I had a chance to talk with Hayden Eckern after their game. Talk with he and his father both. Knowing he's from the Chicagoland area, as am I, he went to St. Rita High School, which we had a little bit of heat with back when in the day. 2 top programs, and I was at Homewood Flossmoor way back in the day, and Hayden probably didn't know anything about that, but he explained kind of how his time in St. Rita, and his parents have since moved away from Chicago. They let me know, and the other guy I was going to mention, Justice Breston, he is our national defensive player of the week for D2 football. So not just winning the conference one, but 2 pick sixes get you our award as well.
And you're not just whistling Dixie when you guys hand out the hardware.
Well, when you take 15 conferences into account, I would say that's a pretty good honor.
Yeah. Let's lead off our weekly recap with the game you attended, MSU Mankato, visiting Northwest Missouri in a showdown of ranked teams. The NSIC got the best of the MIAA in this one. It wasn't as close as the score, 36-22, would indicate. Roll the videotape, as Warner Wolf used to say so long ago.
Well, we get down there. I was mentioning how warm it was. Imagine wearing the black uniforms. Hayden Eckern here, first drive, they march and score and making this look real easy. Then they do a swinging gate for the next play, 2-point conversion. That's a Hoffner special, and Rich Wright is looking for his Rolaids early. The Mavs then go ahead and continue to do ground and pound of the 2-minute variety, just kind of running tempo on them and not being able to be stopped on the ground, really taking control. They were up 22-0 at half, 162 yards on the ground. While at the same time, Northwest is struggling running the ball. Mavs turn them on over here. This game was looking like it was going to be pretty one-sided, and then there was about a 6-minute window where Northwest made a little bit of a push. They end up scoring here. They end up getting the game within 7 points, and the Mavs just said, you know what, we're going to slam the door shut at the end, drive the field, and go ahead and add another one there for Eckern. For the most part, the Mavericks dominated this game. It was 29-0 before they had a series of a bad snap that ended up leading to a safety, then a mishandled snap by the punter that gave Northwest the ball at the doorstep. Northwest scored on 3 big plays, so the passing yards you see there from Chris Runke, a little bit misleading because 3 of those were kind of the longer variety there. Whereas you take a look at the Mavs, I got to be real frank, Tom, I was so impressed with how they were running the football. Sam Backer leads them with over 100 yards in this one, didn't start. They went ahead and kind of held him back for a little bit later in the game. Instead, Tony Anger was who they were using to kind of be a power back. And he was kind of their main guy getting going right at the beginning. They end up bringing Backer in a little bit later. And the Bearcats got to see that when he gets outside, he's got some wheels. I've compared him to longer time Northern Sun fans here to Max Mickey of USF. back in, 2016-17 era. Similar running back. I think Backer may even have another year. And I think you're going to see plenty of him. Does better on the outside carries. The inside runner seems more of a hanger. And then defensively, Tom, they had 4 sacks. Cody Brown had 2 of them. And they allowed negative 17 yards rushing to the Bearcats. So it was frankly a shocking outcome in the way that Mankato did it. Because the Bearcats last year were the second best team in the country against the run, giving up 58 yards a game, which is pretty normal for them. So for them to give up 162 by half, and for Mankato just to be doing ground and pound like they were, this reminded me a lot of vintage Mankato that you would have seen just before COVID, where they were knocking on the door of a national championship.
That video, did you shoot it or did it come from another source?
That came from another source. That was much too clean to be my video.
Yeah, I thought so, yeah. Just wanted to clarify, wanted to make sure.
No, we'll give all our video credits at the end, but you know what? It's great to get that high quality video, to be really frank with you.
Next up, UMD at Northern Michigan. The NSIC's preseason #1 squad had no issues in the UP, posting a 35-7 win. Quarterback Kyle Waljasper looked pretty healthy. There were questions about that throwing arm of his. The offense overall, highly productive. The Bulldogs covered the spread, winning comfortably. They were favored by 28. They win by 28.
Yeah, Tom, they really just flat out just took care of business. And this is exactly what we were expecting them to do. And you know what? When you have that they've got high expectations. Let's be honest. I mean, they're going to go on the road and they're supposed to win by 28, and they did. Yeah, that's pretty impressive. Defensively, they allowed only 7 first downs and 112 yards for their opponent on the road. I mean, this is a fantastic start for them, leading them into the year. And Waljasper not showing any, rust coming off surgery and things like that, and them having 562 yards of team offense. I would say mission accomplished for them.
I bet our mutual friend Jeff Pappas was just beside himself in this game, huh? All right, next up, Bemidji State was at home. Michigan Tech, the opponent, another NSIC GLIAC tussle. The Beavers had to go to overtime. They prevailed by 6, but they had to score 16 of their 19 points in the fourth quarter and the overtime to get the W. Would it be?
Yeah, the final score is not really indicative, Tom, of how this one went.
Would you say in this one, though, that Bemidji's defense is well ahead of its offense after one game?
I have a concern about that. I'm not going to lie. Now, they were able to go ahead and move the ball. I mean, they didn't have, 400 and some yards of offense or something, but they weren't real efficient in this process. 20 of 36 throwing the ball. They did turn the ball over once on a fumble and once on a pick. On third downs, on the money down, they were 6 of 16. Ooh. So that's some of your problem right there. Yeah. Now, if you take a look on the other side, I mean, this game, Tom, was 10-3 Michigan Tech going into the fourth quarter. So you really need to wrap your head around the fact that Michigan Tech was leading this pretty much most of this game. They had Darius Wills for Michigan Tech, who's a smaller slot, 10 grabs, 113 yards. And, frankly, Bemidji State was having some issues with him. Mark Sipple, who is a longtime backer of theirs, only had 14 stops. Something tells me he may end up becoming an All-American type player again by the end of the year. He showed that a few years ago when he had almost 140 tackles for that squad. Now, Michigan Tech is probably a little bit better team than a lot of people will look at here. They were 5-5 a year ago, but they look like the kind of squad who should be able to start to make a little bit of a next step. And in the GLIAC, that's a strong conference. So this is not one of those games where all of a sudden I discount Bemidji State. But the fact that it took them all the way to the fourth quarter for this to click against a team who wasn't especially strong defensively coming into this year, They were just real lucky that Bryce Peters was able to go ahead and kind of help them in overtime on a fade. He catches it, and they get out of there with a 19-13 win in what was otherwise pretty bad scare.
Listen, did you talk? It's a little bit of CYA there, if you ask me. They're your pick to win the league, right?
You know what? I when I heard the score, because I got a score read to me when we were at Maryville, I kind of did one of those. Oh boy, that good pick there, Witt. So you know what? This is one of those things, though, Tom, where it's always moving into the next week. Do we overreact and think that Bemidji State's not that good anymore? Do we all of a sudden think that Mankato's a world beater?
Well, we'll find out when we handicap that game a little bit later on. Wayne State entertained Missouri S&T, and fans were dancing in the streets down in Wayne, America following that huge win. Signal caller Nick Bowen wasn't flashy, but threw for 3, ran for another. That's accounting for 4 of their scores, if you ask me. Former All-NSIC linebacker Alex Kowalczyk back on the field after a year's absence because of injury, picked up where he left off. He was around the football, head-on ball carrier and pass catcher 8 times.
Yeah, and you know, it looks like our crack production team may not have spelled Kowalczyk's name correct at the bottom. So we're going to have to go ahead and fire them. But Nick Bowen, he was my quarterback this week on my D2 fantasy team. I said that right. And you know what? I would have taken a little bit more flashy. But you know what? We'll be okay with the 3 tuds. Latravius Boyd, oh, by the way, a 95-yard run where he went past everybody. And he's a real problem if he's got open space. Really one of the more athletic players in this conference. I really had a feeling that Wayne State was going to avenge the very close game they had a year ago against Missouri S&T, where that game probably got a whole lot more closer than it needed to be. And I think they wanted to set the record straight in this one. And once again, great to see Alex Kowalczyk back after missing a season.
Yeah, I was proofreading. I missed that when I proofread your slides earlier today. It's on you, but it's also a little bit on me.
We'll have his name in on these slides a few other times this year, I think, so he'll be okay.
Mary welcomed Jamestown over to Bismarck. Non-conference tussle between 2 North Dakota schools. The Marauders won it 23-6. We talked about why, the 2 pick sixes by Mr. Breston earlier. Nothing jumps off the stat sheet, really. But it certainly shows to me that Jamestown's got a lot of work to do if they want to be competitive in the Northern Sun when they join the league.
Yeah, you know, I had mixed thoughts about this one because Jamestown outgains Mary 316 to 246 or whatever it was, and that made me kind of go, okay. But Mary had 2 pick sixes, so all of a sudden they don't need to put their foot on the gas as much offensively. Mason Phillips, one of the best players that a lot of people don't know about in this conference, for Mary with 2 sacks right away in this one. Mossad, I thought, was effective for them at quarterback. But, when you have 1 catch for 68 yards, from Jablonski, that's probably going to help. Jamestown, we're still going to kind of keep an eye on them, Tom. Since they're joining the conference next year. If my memory serves me right, they're making a trip down to Shadron this coming week, who scored 6 points in their opener against Nebraska Kearney. So, maybe Jamestown goes ahead and has himself a little bit better battle this time around. But, I didn't think it was horrible. At the same time, you'll recall, I didn't think Mary was going to cover this game, and they didn't.
Another non-conference still Witt matching North Dakota towns. Minot got the better of Valley City. Now, Minot, of course, D2. All of NSIC is D2. Valley City State still NAIA affiliated. So this one went the way pretty much everybody expected it to be. 38-7 final.
Yeah, I was actually during my lunch today, I was watching some of that game. And I found it interesting. Minot immediately was lining up. They were not doing anything out of the pistol. Everything was under center.
Wow.
And so under center, every play when I watched in the first half. And Carson Chrisman, who was a defensive back for them a year ago, I can see why Coach Shields said, he's got a lot of dog in him, and we put him at quarterback because we think he can be that guy. He runs hard, and 15 carries for 133 and 4 tuds. That's a pretty nice debut for this. Evan Lovett, I think, is an underrated running back in this league. He had about a 30-yard touchdown real early in this one, and they were off and running, by the end of the first quarter in this contest. They were able to limit Valley City State to 266 yards. Your favorite player from Minot had 3 tackles for loss. And this was a convincing win that I thought Minot really had to get off to here. So, as I take a look at this here, there's plenty of coaches that have said to me, man, that's the team towards the bottom that everybody's kind of doesn't want to play. Like the team that could get you. So we're going to have to see once we get into Northern Sun, action here where they're playing conference games. Are they going to get a few teams and kind of move up a little bit this year?
How do you pronounce my favorite Minot player's name, Witt?
I don't know how they got Psycho out of that.
You got it, though.
Because that's Carson Keiko all day long.
No,
but you know what? If he wants to go by Psycho, I'm good with it.
All right. Just wanted to make sure you knew what you were talking about there.
Absolutely. And you know what? For an inside backer, he plays sideline to sideline. Just about as good as any of them, to be really honest. He's a very good player.
Northern State picked up a decent-sized check and a loss, 45-3, when it went to Vermilion last Thursday night. Wolves opened the scoring. They went on a drive of 90-plus yards, I think 9 plays, had to settle for a field goal. The ensuing kickoff, returned to the house by USD, halted any potential momentum that Northern State may have had, kept the Wolves out of the end zone for the remainder of the night.
Yeah, this is one of those not a lot to see here kind of games. The Yotes took care of business like they should have. I mean, they're the 5th-ranked team in FCS, and one of the better teams, in a tough conference and league. So, as you look at this here, I didn't think Northwest, or I thought if you took a look at the numbers, Northern State was only about 100 yards down in the overall yardage count. Hank Kraft did some nice things for them at running back, and I think he's an emerging star for them. Jake Adams, who I have been singing the praises for a while, had a solid game as well. And, Northern, as long as they're not coming out of this too dinged up, you can see that Daniel Britt is going to be their guy at quarterback. Physically, for people in the Northern Sun, he's about the same size as John Matoka from Colorado Mines. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be John Matoka. Let's be honest. That's a huge ask. But he runs probably a little bit better than Matoka. So that's kind of what you're going to see from them going forward. I think that this is an indication, Tom, that they're going to be more of a run-based football team with those two players, Britt and Kraft, than maybe they have been in recent years.
I get to see him firsthand this weekend up at Dakota Bank Stadium, Saturday night at 6. All right, in the contest I had the pleasure of covering, University of Sioux Falls traveled to the Twin Cities. We had to wait out a 2-hour rain delay. Then the Cougars looked pretty good, in my opinion. 34-13 win over the University of St. Thomas. Our crack producer has some video from O'Shaughnessy Stadium.
Let's go ahead and check some of that on out. So, raining sideways, as we can see there. That does not look like fun at all. So after you guys had the delay there, whoops, got a little play button there. Shot deep right away, and St. Thomas scores. Glow, of course, my guy hits the panic button, decides, let's go ahead and challenge this. Yeah. A little bit of a bobble, but we're going to call it a touchdown. Cougars, though, very good resolve. Mark Leonard here for a nice gain. I thought that he had some nice yards and plays. Nash here on the carry, and the ball gets stripped out. Yeah, heads up play ends up just how they drew it up. And the Cougars actually became the better team in a hurry in this one. Really played some strong defense, really impressive efforts. And we got that, glow shark thing back again. We'll talk about that another time. But I was thoroughly impressed with how well they played against a huge offensive line. I had mentioned before this game, Tom, that I thought that was probably going to be the issue, is that they're just St. Thomas is going to be able to pound the run. And, let's be real frank, this Cougar team last year couldn't stop the run.
They were huge, but they had cement overshoes. The guys up front did not move very well. They rushed for 22 yards. That was it.
Well, I think having Andy Henson, back with this squad, he went ahead and just about took a few guys' heads off. He is going to be the kind of backer that this league is going to take notice for. He will hit you. 8 first downs allowed by USF, 172 yards total. So I could not have been more wrong about how well they played defensively. And this is, you guys, as everyone knows, I'm friends with Glow. I've known him for a while. I couldn't be happier for him in how well his squad responded, because it was a long year for them last season. Let's be real honest. I thought Cam Dean continues to offer them quite a bit as a dual threat. And I thought that, Slykehouse continued to help them move the chains. And this was a pretty, by the time the second half, midway through, they were in control. And this was, I thought, a very resounding big win for the program.
Like you, I think the defense looked much improved, but how improved? Kind of hard to tell yet, because St. Thomas runs in what Glow would say is an archaic offense from back in the, 3 yards in a cloud of dust days. And they weren't very good offensively, truth be told. Outside of the touchdown throw on the second offensive play of the game that you showed the highlight of, the rest of the game, they showed me nothing really offensively. All in all, good first game, except for the fact my head didn't hit the pillow until 5:30 Friday morning. And an old man like me needs more sleep than that.
I totally understand that. And I do want to give a shout out to, some fans of the show. We've got our guy Tony here, and that is Twitterless Jeff, kind of like your Facebookless Tom. But and they, after 3 quarters of football, they wanted to make sure coach and everyone knew, because we all put our hands up saying fourth quarter like the players do. So Tony and Twitterless Jeff wanted to make sure coach knew they were ready to come in, ready to participate in the fourth quarter. And I always get a kick out of that. So
they were down there at a local establishment near Bob Young Field, drinking and dining. Speaking of drinking and dining, how about that segue, huh?
Yeah, that was smooth.
Here is our exclusive sponsor for D2Footballs.com's NSIC Weekly Podcast, again here in 2024. It's Boss's Pizza and Chicken. And for a guy who hasn't had supper yet, this comes at the worst possible time. My stomach is now growling and my mouth is watering. And what do they got cooking for us this season, Whit?
Well, you know what? If you had to narrow it down to just one option, which is always a difficult thing for me, what do you have? What would you be having on that left-hand side? Would you be having pizza? Would you be having maybe some wings with a little bit of giddy up on them? Or would you have the chicken?
Chicken tenders, baby.
Well, that's actually down there, though. Keep in mind, that's a chicken breast.
Really?
And there's fries. Those are potato wedges.
They have tenders there. I want their tenders.
Okay, fair enough. And remember, that's that different kitchen thing they had. But in the yellow, up at the top of the screen, I want to draw everyone's attention. They still have new opportunities for a potential franchisee. 2 of them in Omaha, 1 of them in Springfield, Missouri, and 1 still in Mankato. Guys, we're going to beat this drum until some of our fans finally decide that this is the right thing for them to do, is to open up their own Boss's Chicken or Pizza and Chicken. And when they do, if you do, Frederick and I will make a road trip and come visit, I promise. But wait, there's more. And if you didn't know, Tom, there's breakfast pizza. What do you think about that?
That sounds interesting.
Oddly enough, I talked to their owner. They offer breakfast pizza, but they're not open during breakfast hours,
How do you
which
get
I'm
it
not
then?
sure if I'm smart enough to compute that in my brain, but that just means that they have that option available. Now, I'm going to do everything I can for them to open up one day early so you and I can go over there and eat healthy and have a breakfast pizza. Now, as you will recall, if you didn't already know, guess what? They have dessert options. I don't know who likes dessert. Well, maybe I do. See those brownie bites there? Do you remember when we had the fat person competition? I mean the what are we going to call it?
The
The
boss's
boss
pizza
hog.
challenge. Yeah, you were
Yes,
cleansing
where
your palate with those things. Yeah.
Brandon and I made a business decision and decided that we were going to stop eating at some point because we saw those brownie bites and said, you know what, that looks even better to our palate right now than another 24 to 40 pepperonis. Now below that, you know what that is there, buddy?
No, that's some type of dessert pizza with chocolate or cinnamon in it. I can't tell.
That is a raspberry
Wow.
swirl topping,
I like raspberries.
and it is a cheesecake dessert pizza.
That sounds interesting.
Giddy up.
Put a little ice
So
cream on it. Ooh,
it sounds like we need to go do a remote and go ahead and do an episode from their location where we just eat things like this. What do you think about that?
I could probably stand to eat a little more these days. I probably half the man I used to, half of you anyway. I'm down to substantially lower than I used to be.
Here we go. We're roasting again.
Yep, I could go for this.
Getting back to football. Here we go with our top 25. You want to throw this one out there, or you want me to, buddy?
Well, you published the new top 25 on Labor Day yesterday. You guys were working at d2football.com, unlike some other folks.
Well, you know, we're really we're ahead of the curve. I agree.
What did any, let's put it this way, did any week zero outcomes result in some fluctuation there in the top 25 from the preseason poll?
Well, heck yes. Minnesota State Mankato got a nice little jump. They were at 11 a week ago. Now they're at 8. Ferris State, with their loss, and gotta be honest with you, they kind of look punchless, but they went from 3 to 9. So Mankato is ahead of them. Then if we take a look at the rest, Bemidji and Augie stayed put. Obviously, Augie didn't play. Bemidji, these aren't standings, keep in mind. These are, you know, a poll. I thought Bemidji might even drop, to be honest, because we expected them to look better. But they stayed at 20, and Duluth moved up from 25 to 23. And Fort Hays also joined the group. Not that you're terribly concerned about them, but they joined the fray as Northwest Missouri State obviously fell on out of the mix.
How many voters are there in the d2football.com top 25 ballot?
Yes. So what we have done is we have gone ahead and kind of sectioned things off by super regions. And right now we have a total of 12 voters. And we think that we have the right people and the right numbers for that to have good quality control.
From our little region here, super region, what is it, 3?
Yes. No, we're in super region 4 right now.
We got bumped.
But the super regions will change next year, but we don't have to worry about that tonight.
Okay, who votes regionally like you do in this poll? Anybody else we would know?
The closest people for me right off the jump are going to be, in terms of proximity, are going to be down Northwest Missouri State with John Dykstra. I don't have our whole list in front of me here. We do have more in Super Region 4. I don't have the voters on my head right now.
All right. Sorry to stump you there. Stump the stoop. Last week, none of us got all the games correct, but we humans, as you can see there by the graphic, fared better than the computer, which in this age of artificial intelligence makes me feel better about things. I don't know about you.
Well, considering Massey's artificial intelligence that's applied with regard to the MIAA, They went ahead and had Northwest Missouri State as a 28-point favorite, like we talked about a week ago. So I'm sure with the love that they've shown the MIAA over the years, they are they got to be recalibrating things, because that big of a swing in the result probably has their system in a tizzy.
Now, I missed Mankato winning at Northwest Missouri. What did you fall short on?
What did I fall short on?
Sioux Falls at St. Thomas, I think.
That's exactly right. Yes.
Yeah. Just wanted to make that known to everybody near and far.
Yes. When you're on 4 different shows, you're not necessarily paying attention to exactly your picks, but there you have it.
Oh, is that a way of saying that you're a busy, busy man?
Might be.
You are known nationally as one of the experts of D2 football. So
Fair enough.
Wear it well. This week's games start on Thursday night. 3 contests, and we're going to lead off with Wayne State at Minnesota State University, Moorhead. Massey has the Wildcats favored by 2.5 on the road. Wayne is 1-0. Moorhead hasn't played yet. I consulted the sheet I used to forecast my preseason picks. Remember a month ago, and you told me you got to figure out who's going to finish where in the league?
Mm-hmm.
I looked at that sheet a month ago. I thought Moorhead would win. Guess I stick with the Dragons only because they're at home.
Well, it's good to hear you're finally doing what you're told from my mouth, so that's perfect. But we talked about this on our national show Sunday night, and this was not unanimous. Moorhead was getting some love there, and they obviously should. This may be the biggest game up at Moorhead in some time, in my opinion, with the expectations they have for this season, and bringing a team like Wayne, who has playoff aspirations themselves. This is a big contest. All that said, I like Wayne State in this one here. I think their defense is going to step up in this one. I think with Kowalczyk back and all the weapons they return, even on the road, I like Wayne State in this one. I like them covering that 2.5.
Augustana lifts the lid on its 2024 campaign in Bismarck Thursday night. Vikings are a 26-point pick to beat Mary, according to Massey, and I'll buy into that.
I think with the Augie's got, going to have new quarterback in place and some other things of that sort. With Mary already having a game under their belt, I don't have Augie covering that number. But I do have Augie still winning comfortably.
Winona opens at home with a non-conference tilt. Saginaw Valley State is the opponent. They're out of the GLIAC, the Great Lakes Intercollegiate Athletic Conference. Massey figures the Warriors at 3.5-point favorites at home. And I'm with them. I'm with the computer on this one.
I have wanted to take Winona State in this one for the last week. I dug into Saginaw Valley in detail in the last 24 hours. I forgot they're returning maybe the best linebacking core in Division II. Offensively, I don't think they're where they need to be, but defensively, this could be maybe as good as any defensive team that Winona is going to face this year. I think Saginaw Valley is still a little bit more athletic, just what Winona saw last year in a game where they got down more than 20 points early. I'm going to take Saginaw Valley State in this one, but I would not be surprised at all if Winona got off to a good start at home. They play much better at home than on the road.
Boy, in the first 3 games, you and I differ twice here.
This is good.
On Saturday, Minot State schleps to Marshall to tangle with Southwest Minnesota State. Home team there, favored by 8.5. I truly believe the Mustangs will open the season successfully over there at Matkey Field.
Well, it looks like we're going to disagree on another one.
Wow.
I'm going to take the Minot Moving Company, as they call themselves, and I like it. I'm running with it. I like Coach Shields and what they had going the other day. I think their defense is a little bit underrated. I'm more concerned, I think, on the other side with Southwest offensively, with some of the losses they had at the skill positions, quarterback included. I think after a game, Minot knows a little bit more what they got than what Southwest does. It's a long road trip. I get it. Southwest probably should win. I'm going to take the road warrior here with the Beavers.
The Minot Moving Company.
That's right.
Next, a non-conference game. Concordia St. Paul at former league member Upper Iowa. CSP is the computer's choice. They're favored by 6.5 in this instance. The Bears are my choice as well.
Yeah, this is a tough one. Upper Iowa's got one of the top tight ends in the country. But you know what? I'll take CSP just being a little bit better up front, a more grit. And I like them to win this one. I don't think they cover. I have a field goal difference here, but I will take the Golden Bears notching their first win there on the road.
Sioux Falls is at Northern State Saturday night at 6. The last time the two schools met, it was a Saturday night. It was at Aberdeen, and Northern trounced the Cougars 41-10. I do not see that happening again. Massey actually has the Cougars favored on the road by 2.5. I figure they're going to win as well.
I don't think Massey's probably taking enough consideration into how good Northern State plays at home. I think Northern State at home has a pretty substantial home field advantage compared to maybe some other locations in the league. Maybe as much as any, to be real frank. That said, I'm going to take the Cougars.
Hey!
Despite I was up there for that game, and that was a butt kicking. But you know what? I think Glow has got some good things going with this group. I think that they can try and have a similar approach of trying to stop the run and shut that down on Northern State, because Northern State's going to have to prove that they can throw the ball. And I think Sioux Falls may be a little bit further along on the offensive side. So I'll take the Cougars on the road, starting off 2-0 here.
All right. 3 out of the first 4 we differed, and now we're in sync. We'll see what happens here on the last one, your feature attraction, the NSIC game of the week, Mankato hosting Bemidji in a battle of league heavyweights. Mavs flying high after that road win at Maryville. Beavers licking their chops. They're lucky to be 1-0 after their overtime win. Massey has Mankato a favorite by 5.5 points.
Let's take a look at our tail of the tape, Witt style here. I didn't want to just go ahead and put a bunch of stats in here. The teams have only played one game, so let's not get carried away with that. Let's take a look at momentum right off the bat. I'm not going to say the Beavers got a lot of momentum in a game that they very well could have lost at home, which would have been a bad start. Mankato, with the way they played and the feeling they had walking off that field, I'm going to give them 2 there for momentum over this. Now, rushing offense, got to give Mankato the nod here, considering who they were going against and the way that they were punishing. That's an easy choice for me. Passing offense, didn't think either was spectacular. I thought they were both capable. I'm going to call that about even. And I'll give total offense to Mankato. Rushing defense, Mankato stopped their opponent. So did Bemidji. I'd say they're about dead even on this. Now, pass defense, neither one of them did great. So we'll give them 1 each. But overall defense, I'm still going to give it to Mankato. I think up front, I still think defensively they got the best pass rush in the league. So I know that that's getting pulled on some bulletin boards with the Mavs, and that's okay. Special teams, I'm going to give Bemidji.
Hold on.
What's that? Yeah.
You just said Mankato's got the better defense, yet you have the 2 X's on the Bemidji side.
Oh, I misspoke. I meant Bemidji in the green. Yes.
Okay.
So Bemidji, I still have as the top defense in this league, I think, at this moment.
Okay.
I think Augie's probably right there with them, but in this contest, I'm still going to give them that. Special teams, well, Mankato, that's kind of where things went a little sideways with them a week ago, so I can't give them the nod here. And then at the same time, they got player of the week for special teams, so that's a Bemidji side. Home field advantage, certainly going to go with Mankato here. They're playing on the grass. That's their deal there. So overall, before the season, Tom, I would have been leaning towards Bemidji. What I saw with my own eyes with Mankato, that was a different Mankato team than I've seen in a few years. I'm going to go ahead and I will take Mankato in this one, and I've got them by 10.
My preseason sheet shows I picked Mankato to beat Bemidji, and I'm going to stick with it. My mind has not changed one iota. So we differ on 3 of them, 3 out of the first 4. The next 3, we were in sync. All right, we'll find out who did the better job of picking, handicapping, so to speak, next week. That'll do it for our second episode of Season 3, NSICweekly.com. I should say the NSIC Weekly Podcast, brought to you by D2Football.com. See the screen there? Be sure to patronize those socials. And don't forget to subscribe to D2Football.com's YouTube channel. Until next week, cheer on your favorite team responsibly. Witt, turn out the lights. This party's over.